Jamie, you have some great new reporting about the process, the vetting process that Tim Walz went through and the conversations that he had, including this moment on the teleprompter tonight.
So most people don't know this yet, but one of the things that Tim Walz confessed when he had his vetting was he said to the team, if you pick me, I have to share something with you. I've never used a teleprompter before. I don't use them in
Vetters
speeches.
must have had a big sigh of relief when he told them what the big news was.
If you have to have a vulnerability, that was one you want. And he said, you're going to have to get me a teleprompter. You're going to have to get someone to teach me how to do it. And our colleague MJ Lee has reporting that in the hours before that speech, guess what? They had a teleprompter backstage, and he was practicing with it. I just want to add, someone texted me, he reads Republican. And I think that is the reason, I was told by people who were familiar with the vetting, that he was a favorite candidate, because he may not be Governor Shapiro of Pennsylvania, but they feel he will connect and attract voters in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in Georgia, in North Carolina, that his Midwestern nice will play elsewhere. I also just want to say about that speech, it's one of the reasons that Harris picked him. That's his superpower. He is authentic. He knows how to deliver even a tough line with a smile. The line of the night, I thought, was when he said, let's be clear, crime was up under Trump. That part I'm paraphrasing. But then he turned and he said, and that's not even counting the crimes he committed. It brought down the House.
Okay, so let's ask Republicans or former Republican.
Still Republican, not Trump supporter.
Okay.
For the record,
I'm
still very much a Republican.
No. I was looking at Alyssa. You can't see, we're looking at these pictures. I was looking at Alyssa. The whole idea of his appeal. We see and hear the Trump campaign, J.D. Vance. I mean, they're going full steam ahead on saying he's a progressive and he's too liberal and so on and so forth. Is that going to fly when he delivers lines the way he does, when he looks the way he looks, when he has the background that he does?
So listen, this was a flawless rollout for all intents and purposes, and I have a feeling that Donald Trump was feeling pretty confident this morning when Governor Josh Shapiro was not the pick, somebody who was a moderate that they were a lot more afraid of running against. But they shouldn't get too confident with this choice, because Mike Waltz, yes, has a progressive record that they're going to attack him for. Hands down, they are going to. But to Jamie's point, he reads like a normie uncle, dad, white guy in the Midwest. And I think that he's somebody who can play in those critical swing states, Wisconsin, Michigan, his home state of Minnesota, but also in Pennsylvania. And then he's boosted by the fact that a moment for Josh Shapiro knocked it out of the park at the kickoff of this and made very clear he's going to be out campaigning for this ticket. So it's not like it was a net loss that you didn't get the Shapiro factor. This was a very, very strong event. However, there are flaws of Mike Walz. There's a reason Tim Walz.
One of the flaws is he has a 0% name ID.
The fact that I'm confusing him with a Republican Congress. There are things that are going to be relitigated, like this, the riots in the summer of 2020, his slow walking, calling out the National Guard, something that's been a vulnerability and that Republicans have called out Kamala Harris for. But I think they're prepared for what the attacks are, and if they stick to this script tonight, it will work.
And Scott, as you come in, one of his friends told me this morning that his superpower is how normal he is.
Is he? I mean, I don't know. I don't know this guy. I mean, is it normal to let your biggest city in your state burn while you're the governor for 4 days, destroying thousands of businesses, hundreds of millions of dollars in property damage while you do nothing? Does that sound normal? Is it normal for your wife to say she opened the window so she could let the smell of tire fires waft in so they could take in the smells of this radical chaos and anarchy on the streets of Minneapolis? I don't view any of that as normal. I look at this through the lens of decision making. And in two cases, they've showed us who they are. Kamala Harris absolutely bowed down to the radical left in her party by not picking Shapiro, who is Jewish. There was a nasty campaign run against him. Everybody knows it. No one wants to admit it, but everybody knows it. And
We've talked about that.
she wound up choosing the person who was not Jewish and not as talented and not from the state that she has to win. He did a nice job tonight. Everybody can see why he was the best choice, but she couldn't do it because the party is somewhat awash in anti-Semitism. And for Walz, when he did what he did during the riots, to me, it was him saying, I don't have the strength or the character to stand up to this anarchy. So in two big decision points for this ticket, they've showed us they will always bow down to the radical left. So I think if you want to talk about normal, to the normal people in this country, bowing down to the radical left is not normal. It shouldn't be normal, and it should be a flashing red light to the normies of America that this is not the ticket for you.
You know, one of the big issues in this election is a woman's right to choose. And guess what? Kamala Harris got a choice to make, and she got to make the choice who was going to be her running mate and who she was going to go into the next 90 days in, and maybe the next 4 years, and maybe the next 8 years. You don't get to tell her who she has to run with. She gets to choose that. That's what leaders do. There's no way you can say Tim Walz is radical because he wants to feed kids. He doesn't want kids to go home. You know who gets hungry is white kids, black kids, brown kids, poor kids get hungry. That doesn't discriminate. That's that's Tim Walz's policy. That's not a radical left.
I said it was radical
also,
to let Minneapolis burn. Do you agree?
Yeah. No, but let's go back to 2020. If you want to have a contest about who's more radical, you know it was radical sending troops out to clear protesters out in front of the White House so Donald Trump could have a photo op. You want to know what's radical? Not telling people on January 6th to stop, that you lost the election, and that Trump, his own vice president, Mike Pence, who won't come in a football field length of him right now, that's radical. That's who your guy is. I'll take Tim Walz any day.
There should have been troops on the streets of Minneapolis immediately. It was burning to the ground.
Let me just say one thing before you come in, and that is because you brought up Josh Shapiro.
Yeah.
We have been talking about the fact that there was a campaign against him.
Ugly.
That was clearly, I want to say, because based on the fact that he was Jewish, he doesn't have any different policy ideas than the other people. However, I don't think we have any evidence that that is why she didn't pick him. In fact, if you watched him tonight, and I want to stay on the people who are on the ticket, but if you watched him tonight, he has top of the ticket energy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Not VP energy.
Yeah,
and there's no way in my, there's no way that wasn't part of it.
I know Jamie has some good reporting on this, and I have some visibility into this.
Yes.
I think that there was a real, I don't think he was excluded for that reason. I'm not sure he was excluded at all. I think there was a mutual meeting of the minds as to whether this was the right fit for him with her. I appreciate, as the only, oh, no, you're here. But just let me, oh, yes, all of us. But I appreciate your, I'm, anti-Semitism is something that a lot of us have faced in different ways, and my family has faced, and so on. I don't like to see it exploited here. One of the things that separated this rally from a Trump rally is it felt very wholesome. It felt very positive. It wasn't just a series of sort of appeals to hate and division and grievance. And so I think, I understand the talking point. I'm sure we'll hear more of it.
Could I just, Scott, give me 1 second. Scott, 1 moment. Take a beat. I think it's important to add to that 2 things that we have from our reporting. One is that even going into this selection, Josh Shapiro had some, let's just say, hesitancy or questions about whether he wanted to be the number 2. Yep. You may remember that 3 weeks ago, there were a lot of people who were not sure that Kamala Harris was going to be the most exciting ticket. It feels very different now. And he is someone who definitely has ambitions to run, and he was looking at down the road. And we have new reporting tonight from our team that, in fact, when he went into his vetting meeting and also in his in-person meeting with Harris, he made it very clear what kind of vice president he wanted this to be. It was much more of a 2 for the price of 1. He wants to be in the room. He wanted to have a real say in these things. There are sources we've talked to who feel that in those meetings, Shapiro sort of set the stage not to be picked.